Hi, I'm Adam Taub, and this video is for bachata dance teachers or dance teachers of other genres as well. And I'm going to be focusing on ways that we can connect our students to the music. You know, I think intuitively we all understand how fundamental and how essential music is to the dance experience, but a lot of times when planning a class or even when dancing, music gets pushed to the side and is not thought of. As some of you know, I've done a lot of documentary film work with bachata musicians. I also teach dance classes, but you know, my real deep introduction to bachata music and dance was really through documentary film work with bachata musicians. In some ways, the connection to the music came first for me. That connection with the music is fundamental and so important for dancers. So I want to give you some ideas on how you might sort of enhance your students' relationship with music over the course of an hour dance class, or perhaps over the course of a series, depending on how much time you have with them. So something we can do that can enhance our students' connection with the music actually begins before the class even starts, and that's during the planning phase of the class. So I would say spend more time selecting and thinking about the music you're going to use in your class before the class actually starts. Okay, so you know, you want to choose appropriate music for the level of class in terms of tempo. Also the age group you're teaching to, maybe they connect with one musician or a certain sound or era of bachata more than the others. So you know, that's one thing to consider, is just, is my music appropriate for the class I'm teaching? But in addition, you really want to pick music that you're also passionate about, that you're excited to hear, excited to teach to, because that in terms will translate to your students, that excitement, that passion. You also want to be able to select music that's, you know, diverse in terms of tempo, perhaps in terms of emotion or feeling, in terms of artists presented, also in terms of just sound and the era of bachata. You know, maybe you're using newer stuff for the majority of the class, but you throw in some music from the 90s or from the 70s, the 80s. So just exposing your students, that's a real important part of even a dance workshop, is exposing people to diverse music, to different sounds, and that way they have a more rich experience when they go out social dancing or they go out in the world, because they have these connections, these relationships with diverse music. So that's a really important part of the class. So another way to connect them is throughout the class to point out different ways they might listen to or hear the music. You might point out particular sounds, particular instruments, or relationships between instruments. You might point out the vocals or the lyrics or the lead guitar or the bass, encouraging your students to listen. Also within the class, perhaps give them a space where they could just they can just either dance or they can just listen. So where they don't always have to be performing or doing the technique or doing something, where they're not always in their head, but able to just experience it and enjoy themselves and enjoy the music. Another thing I would say, and this is pretty easy to do throughout a dance class, is mention song titles, mention the artist's name. So you know, your class may not be a bachata musicality class, and it may not be a class focused on bachata music, but throughout your class you can, before you turn on the song, you can say a little bit about it. You can say the name of the song. Even if they don't remember it, you're giving importance. By mentioning the artist's name and by mentioning the song title, you're telling your students this is important. The music we're dancing to is important. So mention the artist's name, mention the song title if you can, and just sort of make that a habit when using music. And that'll help sort of reinforce to your students that this connection with the music is fundamental. It's important. Another thing you can do is offer them resources either online on your website perhaps, or your social media account, or even within the class. You could have a poster, for instance, with the song titles and artists that you use that they could then take a photo with. And they could take those music suggestions home with them. So you could have a poster of the music either that you used in class, or you could have a sort of poster of music that you would recommend them to practice to, that they can take a quick photo that doesn't use paper, and then they'll be able to find music. Because a lot of times when we're starting off in a genre as dancers, we don't know who to look for and we don't know where to find this music. You might also create a blog post or a post on your social media account about the music you use in your classes and in your workshops, so students can check back, and that also connects them with your courses. So for this next tip, it's pretty straightforward. It's just make sure, if you can, use music within your classes. Certainly there are some technique classes or certain classes where you may use less music within the class, but a lot of times when students go to a dance class, they're really craving that connection with music. That's what they want. And many times when we plan a dance class, the majority of the time we're working on a technique or working on something without music involved. And that can at times, sometimes that's appropriate, but at times that can leave a student wanting more, saying, wait, where's the music? I want that, because it's just such an essential part of it. So make sure you give ample time to practicing or working on techniques and steps with music in the class. Another tip involves sound quality. Now, this is something that we don't always have control over as dance teachers. We may be teaching in a studio or a space that it's our first time and we have very little control over it. But for me, as someone who's a music lover, who loves music, it's always been important to at least try to attain, a certain level of sound quality and also a certain level of volume even. Sometimes we can't have this. Sometimes we have to teach a class just using the audio off our laptop, or we can't get something to work and we have to adapt, or we use some small speakers attached to our laptop. But if you do, take that time to try to figure out before what the space is like before you go in to teach it. What's the sound system like? What are the connections like? And work on that sound quality to the best of your ability, and also volume that comes into play as well. But that's going to enhance your enjoyment of the class, but also your students. If they can hear the bass clearly, if they can hear the treble or the high end, if they can hear all these instruments, that really, really makes the class that much better. And it's important. I mean, we know when social dancing, when in a space or in a club dancing, how important audio quality is to the experience, being able to actually really hear the song and hear the words, hear the lyrics. And that's important in a dance class too, and that helps, that importance that you place on the sound quality and on the music will also transfer to your students. So in addition, something that dance teachers need to do, in order for their students to connect with the music, you also need to give importance to it. So, I know when we're planning and we're teaching, sometimes it feels like you don't have enough time to really even nurture that love or that relationship you had with the music you're teaching or the dance you're teaching. So I really encourage you to take the time and just listen, put it on some headphones, or when you're driving in the car, be around the music when you're not working. So when you're not planning a performance or a choreography, or when you're not planning a class, just expose yourself and give yourself that gift of musical enjoyment as well, because that then is going to transfer to your students. Continue to learn. So if there's presentations, or if you have a chance to see musicians live or see documentary films about the music, that's gonna just enhance not only your connection, but you're gonna be able to then have sort of this grouping of stories that you can then bring into your dance class. I love bringing in stories that I have with different musicians, whether it's filming a documentary with Joan or interviewing Luis Segura. I bring those experiences and those stories into the class, you know, and I don't necessarily have it planned out or have it scripted. It's just as that song I'm using or as this reminds me, I bring it up and I share with the students. So, you know, you want to make it personal, and the more experience you have and the more you can learn, the more you can kind of bring that in. So those are just a few tips that you might use to connect your students to the music more, to give them a deeper connection to the music throughout your dance class. And you know, if you have ideas or if you have techniques that you use in your class that you'd like to share with us and recommend, love to hear them in the comments below, and we can kind of continue this conversation and share what works and that we've used.